What's up, everybody? Back Kajeski here. Back again with the Stokastic channel, talking some college football DFS. Monday, December 19th. Just one game, so we have a showdown to get to. But before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so when this and all other content goes live. We're also brought to you today by No House Advantage. And if you've never heard of No House Advantage, they're bringing prop betting to you in a very different way. You can make lineups with player props, parlaying them together, and that is called Verse the House. But they also have tournaments where you are making lineups of player props on a confidence interval, and you're playing for big prizes. They've had as much as 25K in prize pools up to first. And a lot of times these aren't filling. So the biggest thing with any sort of DFS product is trying to find places that might have overlay. Say you have 10K in total prizes and 300 people are in the contest. Well, if 150 people enter, they still have to pay out 10K in prizes. So that is huge in terms of building your bankroll. Make sure to check out No House Advantage. They also have a $50 first match deposit bonus, which you can click the link in the video description below to take advantage of. Let's dive into the showdown slate, bring you behind the glass. Also, if you're listening on podcasts, please leave a rating and review. That helps a ton. Thank you if you've done that. We have UConn and Marshall, and of course, no FanDuel pricing, but I presume they'll have something. If not, I don't know. But we have DraftKings. So let's start this off with just game environment stuff. UConn is a 10.5 point underdog. The total is 40.5 at this point. And you have two teams that are pretty similar. They're both very run-heavy teams. UConn, 124th in pace. They have a 35.5% pass rate. Marshall, 46th in pace, 41% pass rate. It looks like the total changed very recently, so this will both go to 40.5 soon. Sorry, there's just some updating to do. But a low total regardless. UConn, their implied team total is just 15 points here, but obviously showdown, we need to talk about these guys. At quarterback, you're going to see Zion Turner. He's more of a game manager, to put it kindly, and he's very expensive here, which leaves a lot to be desired. I think there's builds you can include him in and builds you can also leave him out in. I don't think he's the most desirable captain based on the complexion of this UConn roster. He only has 237 rush yards in the year, and he's not the most involved from like a design rushing perspective. Last 4 games, 4, 1, 6, and 3. It's not very much. As a passer, he just averages a little bit north of 100 yards per game. Some noise here. He's played some games that weren't complete, so Zion Turner projects a little bit above this, but not by a whole lot. He's just expensive overall. In the backfield, it's been a committee, and it's been a 3-way committee recently. Victor Rosa, Devontae Houston, and Robert Burns all essentially splitting work 3 ways with very little rhyme or reason to the splits here. Last game, you had Rosa leading the group with 12 carries, Houston at 10, and Robert Burns at 8. However, the week prior, it was Robert Burns with 11, Victor Rosa with 10, Houston with 8. Ultimately, I think this is going to continue being a 3-way timeshare, making the cheaper guys a little more attractive overall. That means Robert Burns at 1.5K, the stone minimum, is a player we need to be considering without a doubt. On the receiving side of things, this is where things get a little interesting because they have essentially returned some players from injury and kind of changed their rotation a little bit at receiver here. But on the year, Aaron Turner has been their wide receiver 1. He is priced accordingly, averaged 6.3 targets per game over their last 4 games. I'm going to pull up routes for you guys right now so we can potentially get this. And I accidentally opened the wrong document, so excuse me there. But behind him, Kevin's Clarcius, he's been the second most involved receiver. He averages 5.3 targets per game over the last 4, also priced way up. But the real difference here was we saw the return of Keelan Marion, who's been a big player for this team in the past. And the route rate, got it pulled up now. It was actually very cut and dry. You had Clarcius and Aaron Turner remaining in their near every down rolls. And then Keelan Marion immediately popped up for a 67% route share. That came at the direct expense of Dejon Harrison, who played the week prior. And I would anticipate this being the case moving forward, with Marion previously occupying a pivotal role for this team. Last guy to mention here among pass catchers is Justin Jolly. He's their tight end, of course, listed as a receiver on DraftKings. They don't actually list tight ends out. 2.3 targets per game over the last 4. very clearly a step behind these other players. And I think just in a vacuum, I would prefer Marion to Jolly just straight up. Even though their salary is about $2K in difference, I'd rather just find it to get up to Marion than play Jolly. But if you need to, he's there. They don't have a lot of really cheap guys. I think Harrison's going to be the guy that rotates on the field occasionally. But again, I'd rather play like Burns over Harrison for a mid-price guy. Going to Marshall. Cam Fancher, new quarterback. He's very mobile. 456 rush yards this year. Averages 129.3 as a passer. And there's some incomplete games for him as well. This team has a much higher implied team total. So it's just very surprising that Fancher has a cheaper price tag than Zion Turner. It doesn't make sense to me. I'd rather just play Fancher straight up in a vacuum. And he's playable, captain, not captain, however you want to do this. The backfield is muddied a bit here with the return of Rasheen Ali. So Kalon Laybourne deservedly is the most expensive player on the slate. He had nearly 1,500 rushing yards this year. He probably breaks that in this game, honestly. Averages 25.6 touches per game. But in the last two games where we did have Rasheen Ali return, the touches have dropped for him. So Kalen LeBourne, 19 touches and 11 touches in the last two games. Rasheen Ali, he had 16 and 16. Those are just carries. So actually it was 17 and 17 when you include targets. So it's very close to a 50-50 split with Rasheen Ali back in the picture. Now, I think a lot of optimals are probably going to play both these guys. But if you're looking at just one price adjusted, you're just saving so much money going to Rasheen Ali. Now, make sure they both play normal bowl stuff. Watch warm-ups. Make sure you get the correct information. But that's where it stands right now. Receiving game. Again, we haven't had anybody opt out of these games either. So I'm taking this at face value for now. Corey Gamage is the wide receiver one. He's very expensive. It's a bit surprising to me that he's more expensive than Fancher, the QB, but he is the number one, so this makes sense to me. 5.5 targets per game, 59 yards per game. The only issue is you've actually had Charles Montgomery operating as a legitimate wide receiver too. And in the last 4 games, he's averaged 6.3 targets to Corey Gamage's 4.8. This is closer than the price indicates. Again, $15,900 for Gamage, just $3,000 for Charles Montgomery. These two should be closer in price without a doubt. So Montgomery, slightly better price-adjusted play, in my opinion. You also have E.J. Horton playing as the main wide receiver 3 right now, 4.8 targets per game in the last 4 for him. But the thing with Marshall is that they rotate receivers a little bit, which brings up some intriguing GPP potential leverage here. So I'll give you the routes as we usually do. Last game, Gamage, 62%, Montgomery, 82%, E.J. Horton, 71%. And then tight end Devin Miller, he came in at 76%. So you can see those are the clear top 4 for this team. Devin Miller, clearly the least involved. So I'd rather just play Horton straight up than him. The other guy to mention is Shaheed Ahmed, 23.5% of the routes. And then Caleb McMillan, 41% of the routes last week. Those are going to be more of your GPP plays. And I think McMillan just for 300 more makes more sense than Ahmed. So to kind of rank them, price adjusted, number 1's Montgomery, in my opinion. Just he's so cheap, doesn't make a lot of sense. 2, I'll go Gamage. 3, E.J. Horton, also just way too cheap. You should be getting a lot of Montgomery and Horton in some combination. 4, Miller. And then 5 and 6 will be the combination of Shaheed Ahmed and Caleb McMillan. But that'll do it for us. Let me know in the comment section what you think of the breakdown. Would love to hear it. Hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel on the way out. That does a lot for us, so thank you if you've done that. And we'll be back all throughout bowl season, so make sure to check us out in future videos. I'm on Twitter at Matt_Gajeski. But until then, good luck, and we'll see you then.